come.
Madam Chairman, forgive my delay.
No problem. Okay, if everyone's ready. 6:33, I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Heritage Preservation Board on May 7th, 2018. Ms. Secretary, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Terrapini,
Yes?
Mr. Bolton,
Here.
Miss Page, Miss Johnson. Here. Miss Bean.
So we do have a quorum of 3, and we'll talk about that once we get to the item about kind of a little bit of restrictions that has. But before we get started on our meeting, just ask everyone who is in here, who please, board and staff and attendees, if you please turn your phones on silent, please. And then we do always take public comment. If anyone's here that wants to speak to anything that's not on the agenda, please feel free to come on up. Seeing no one rise, we'll move on to the quasi-judicial announcement and the swearing in of the speakers. Mr. Perez.
Chair, are you doing the minutes after?
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped right over that. Oh, you're right. Let's go to the minutes first of April 9th, our last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Are there any revisions to the minutes? Revisions? Oh, you weren't here. I thought it reflected accurately our meeting, Carol.
I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
Second.
Any further discussion on the approval of the minutes of April 9th, 2018? Roll call, please.
Miss Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mrs. Terrapini.
Yes. Now we'll move on to the quasi-judicial announcement and the swearing in of the speakers, please.
This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Heritage Preservation Board acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Are there any members of the board tonight wishing to disclose ex parte communication or conflicts of interest?
No.
Any members of the public wishing to to speak tonight, if they could please stand to be sworn in. That includes the applicant and anyone else. Okay. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep.
So sworn.
Before we talk about, let's have the staff present this case, I just want to let, are you Ms. Wynn? Okay. I just want to let you know our rules and the code require that 3 votes, one way or another, for a decision must be made. So as you can see, we clearly only have 3 board members here. If during the discussion you believe that there's a concern by one of the board members, you wouldn't get 3 votes. It's your right to ask for a continuance to our next regular meeting. You can also do that now. It's entirely up to you. But I did want to let you know, because we do have a short board tonight, or a smaller board, that is an issue. I just want to bring it to your attention. Sure, we can do that. Right, we can do that. I just wanted to be sure that you were aware of that issue before we got. Okay, and I'm not trying to sway the board one way or the other. None of us have talked about these cases until we got here tonight. When we do have a small board, I like to let applicants know that that's their right to ask for that. And we don't have to, it's not a vote, it's not something we can deny you. You have the right to ask for that, and we'll go to the next regular meeting. Okay, well, why don't we proceed, and we'll see how it goes, and see where we go. Wagner, please.
Application 1843 is for a certificate of approval to install 2 new wall-mounted signs on the building facade to advertise Neptune Lounge and Neptune Cyclery at 13 South Safford Avenue. This building is a non-contributing structure. I was unable to locate any evidence of original signage or even how the building facade looked originally. The building has been altered to the point where it's considered non-contributing to the local historic district. The proposed sign for Neptune Lounge is circular with a 2-foot radius, which equals approximately 12.5 square feet in surface area. The proposed sign for the bicycle shop consists of a set of channel letters BIKES applied in a straight line horizontally, and the applicant indicates that the total surface area for all letters combined will comply with the dimensional requirements of the Land Development Code. Both signs are internally lit. Both proposed signs are sized to meet Section 189.03E for maximum allowable sign area within the local historic preservation district and to meet all other requirements within Article 11 sign regulations. If the proposed signs are approved, the building facade will only be altered to the extent necessary to install the signs. And I did, since writing this report, I have heard back from the Tarpon Springs Area Historical Society, and they do not have images that are helpful to this case. Staff recommends approval of the application for 1 new sign for Neptune Lounge and 1 new sign for Neptune Cyclery. Applicant is responsible for obtaining all required permitting.
I had a couple of questions, perhaps the board does too. Ms. Wagner, the size, I saw the size of the round sign for Neptune Lounge, and I trust your math, I don't do algebra. But I do geometry, but I do algebra. What are the dimensions of the bike sign? Is it
So
what's the
I didn't-
height and length of that?
I did not get those dimensions. We had discussed it. The agent for the applicant and I had discussed the maximum allowable size, and they've assured me that it will be within the maximum allowable size. It wouldn't receive a permit if it didn't, but I don't have the dimensions of the letters.
So just to make the math easy, 1 to meet 12 or 12 and a half.
So it would be probably
would be
about
2 by 6.
approximately.
And what do you just draw a line around the letters in the whole image, and then that's the length and the width and the height?
Right.
Just draw a box around
the area
word.
that the sign basically, yes.
And the type of sign that this is, I'm really unclear about that in these images.
So those channel letters are similar to what you see on SunTrust Bank downtown, where they stand up off of the building.
And the one for the Neptune Lounge?
That one also stands away from the building about, I think, 5 inches, 4 or 5 inches. And it's sort of just a circular,
Yeah.
correct.
And what is the material that each sign will be made?
My understanding is that they're metal and plastic.
That's all my question.
I have a couple questions. Is the cyclery, are those 2 different businesses?
They are.
So would each one have their own amount of area that they can cover?
Well, the way it works is the area is determined by the amount of frontage that each business occupies. In this case, they're equal, so it's the same.
So they're getting, what I'm saying is you're not lumping as one building and then they're having to do these signs with only one, based
Right.
on one. They each get their own
Yes.
amount of space.
Yes.
And then second question I had is the, and this is my memory, I'm not sure if it's in code or if this is one of those they told us one time type things, that the signage downtown would be, they can have either a sign hanging by the entryway or they can elect to have the sign with the bracket above that. Is this
That's the way it's
business,
done.
yeah, does this business not fall in that section of the downtown area? Or is it outside of that?
So this business could use the bracket sign. That's an optional sign.
Mhm.
They've chosen not to pursue it. They prefer the signage that they're proposing here.
So it's not a either or, there's nothing in the code that says they have to do one or the other.
Correct.
This is just within the guidelines of,
Correct.
okay. And it's the metal banding, like makes a circle and
Right.
it sticks out and there's a light inside of it.
Right.
Which is historical in nature. I see old signs like that all the time.
No, I mean, question. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, why don't we hear from the applicant? You need to come up to the podium, please, and give your name and address for the record.
Okay, this little guy here. Can you hear me? I just wanted to let you know that the applicant did try really hard.
Can you just state your name and
Oh, I'm
address for the
sorry.
record, please?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sherry Went. Address 631 Eunice Drive in Tarpon Springs. And sometimes I volunteer to help the merchants do their grants and come before the board. So I'm representing this particular applicant for the signage. Anything else? Okay. This applicant is probably has a very modern business, but he was trying very hard to come up with something that would be simple, straightforward, particularly for the bikes. He just wanted it to be simple and plain and not deter. And his main purpose in his signage was to try to not detract. He loves the building and the facade of the building, the look of the stucco and the way it's done. And so he was hoping that this would lend to that and it would look really good and not detract. And I've talked to the sign company several times, and they have promised me, for fear of death to them, that they will not go out of the square footage. So that they were going to be very careful, because we actually made them come back and redo with Michelle's help, and we redid the sign for Neptune Lounge to make it look much more calm and pleasing to the building. So, and he was excited about this now. So I just wanted you to know that he's trying really hard. And I do like what we have now. I wasn't excited in the beginning, but I think this is a good.
I had a question for you, if you might. I know those buildings have been there and those businesses have been there for as long as I've lived here, which is 17 years. Why the need now to do wall sign?
One of the things with this particular applicant, I think he's just kind of been a loner and been on his own, and he's had his businesses, and now he's kind of, I think we've encouraged him, the merchant board have been working with him to draw more attention to yourself, make sure they know that you're here, you're on the trail. We've gotten him to join the merchants, and we've encouraged him to, which I will help him with, apply for a sidewalk grant. It's a permit so that he could sit outside appropriately, make the places come into the new century and make it look good and participate in the community, and he's jumped in. So, I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, I really haven't heard from him for a really long time. I think now he's more proud of what he has, and we've encouraged him to participate, and he's doing that, which is good.
Okay, I was just curious. Question? Anything else you'd like?
Is that okay? I'm fine.
Okay.
I mean, I'm hoping that you will like these, and I would rather go home and try again if you do not, because I want him to be successful and participate and do well with this business.
Comment?
Go ahead. No,
I think the buildings have been so altered to the front facade that they don't read as historic anymore, which is just a comment. But I do think, they are made of the same material, so it'd be nice if the signs were similar, but that's not an absolute requirement. It just sometimes makes it look better. I think the Neptune Lounge sign is well thought out. It has kind of the trident there that relates to Neptune. The font relates to the signage that he already has on the window. I think that's a good sign. I think it's it's in right size. It's kind of, it looks like it goes with, The other one, I think, really doesn't add to the design. I don't think it adds to the historic nature of the building at all. I think there's some neat things you could do, like a picture of a bike. They used to do that. Hold on a second. When we finish talking, we have questions, we can ask you back up. There's some neat things you could do besides just the word. And we're not here to judge the words or the message, but we are here to look at the design. I think the design really doesn't complement the building at all, quite frankly. And I think there's some other things you could do. I can remember he's seeing historic signs of, has a bike on it. This is when a lot of people couldn't read. They would have an image or picture of something, whatever they were selling. That's not what you don't have to do that, but I just think that would have been a little more interesting than just a word. And the words, the font's not even a historic font, or there's just no connection of the sign design to the design of the building, and it's a little tricky because you have buildings that have been altered and they've got this different material on them that we wouldn't normally have. But the Neptune Lounge sign worked pretty well. I think.
I would say the Neptune Lounge signs reminds me of the historical, old mobile shell signs that are round with the bubbled glass on the front. In keeping with that, if the word signs were a different fabrication, I think it would detract from each other, but it's the same fabrication. It's the same block with the same elevation coming out, so it kind of ties it all together. I didn't think it does anything to take away. Maybe it doesn't add artistically the thing that I would do, but I certainly don't think it's anything that takes away or hinders that area of the city, or does anything to detract from it that I would, have a problem with. It may not be what I've done, but I don't see a problem with it.
Well, I would have liked to seen the Neptune bike with the same kind of sign as the Neptune Lounge.
Sure. Please come back.
What you had said is interesting, because I was trying to figure out what else I could offer him because I thought, well, okay, what if they don't like it? I mean, I always like to come with Plan B, because I've been to that before. When we did all the windows downtown, I had B and C, so I know that at least they'd like something when I got finished. And I went online Sunday, and I even brought some of them with me. I couldn't find anything that I really even liked and I went in and I put in, and you're welcome to go home and do this, put in signage for historical buildings on the front of, I put it in different ways to pull it up. And I got a lot of the same thing as the bike. Those simple letters. And then I got crazy things where they had the bike hanging off the wall, and he did mention to me that once. And I'm thinking, I'd rather have the simple letters than the bike hanging off the wall, probably, on our historical building. But I can show you some of the things that I found, but these letters are pretty much out there. When you go on, you find these letters. I keep going through them. I couldn't find anything that I loved to think, I'm going to talk him into it. Because, I talked him into changing the first one, but he does have two different buildings there. They're two different businesses. So he wanted the bike to be simple and have the same material used on both. It will protrude the same, it's the same type of material, and it will look the same that way. If you would like to see some of the things that I found, I have those with me too. It's just that it's pretty much what we see, only worse, some of them. That was my concern.
The signs that I see downtown, the ones that work the best and are the most in keeping with the historic nature are what I would call the blade signs or the hanging signs that hang down over the, because they're there where, as you're walking down the sidewalk, you see them. The awning signs, many of the awning signs we have downtown work pretty well. He doesn't have awnings, so that's really not an option. I personally can't support the bike. I think it's too austere. I think it doesn't add to the historic building, and I think there's some other options that. Well, you presented one application with, I don't know. And I'll defer to Mr. Perez, but
Can I ask a question in regards to what we're saying? What's our purview? Are we outside? My concern is that we have a building that's been sitting there that the guy's finally is going to spend $6,500 to do something really to bring, $3,000 and $3,000, so it's close to $6,000 or $7,000 plus whatever electrical he might be doing. And we want to encourage people to do that. And I mean, within our residents and community, we do have a, we don't want to impede and discourage people from coming before us. If this building is not a historical contributing structure, I don't think 1910 or 1920, everything, we're not trying to emulate a period different than what this building is, because the historic guidelines say not to emulate or try and make it outside of make it a period of what it's not. And if you go to any reclaimed salvage place of buildings that are reclaimed from the 50s or 40s, those bike letters, that's what you get. That's what you find. So I'm just saying, this building, I just think I just think that it's a heavy-handed approach, and which, if we're not going to have a quorum, then I would suggest a continuance. But I think it's the very thing that this board gets a bad rap for, is that we over aggressively micromanage something that somebody's trying to do to improve their building.
With all due respect, I'm
So-
not trying to micromanage it. I'm trying to
It just
apply
seems that way.
Well,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
trying to apply the guidelines. I don't see that it is compatible with the building. I don't see that it adds anything to the building or to the historic district. That's my opinion. I'm one of three people,
Yeah.
so if you wish to, please, if you're going to speak, though, you need to go back to the podium so we can capture it on tape.
So what I need to ask you for is guidance, because, and I do design work, and when you work with the merchants, so what do I recommend to him that he brings back to me? What do I ask him to do?
Well, I'm only speaking for myself, and the rest of the board can speak for themselves, but
And I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not speaking
Well, I
for
know,
the
but
rest
I
of
have to
the-
come back, and you'll still be here, so I need to figure out what to do.
I guess I will, but.
I know. So, I mean, I'm just asking for your help, because I do this as a volunteer, but the man's really stepped forward for the first time in many years and wants to contribute to the community and do the right thing. So I have to tell him tonight that he was declined, and he will be very disappointed. Then he'll say, Sherry, okay, what do you want me to do? So I need some guidance, hopefully.
I think it needs something besides just words. I think there needs to be some design to it, whether that is an image of a bike, whether that is something around the word, something. I mean, you've done such a nice job with the Neptune Lounge when it has a design to it, and it hangs with the building, and it is compatible, hangs with, it's not the correct term, it's compatible with the building, it's compatible with the existing signage. You're picking up the same kind of logo, material, font, all that. This one, I don't see any of those things. I don't see any design.
Well, he didn't want it to be cutesy. He wanted it to be simple. That was.
There's a way to do a non-cutesy sign that has some design to it. As I said, that's my opinion.
Can I hand you
So-
two pictures and ask me if you would have liked either one of these? Because there's something that I found on the computer. Because now that it'll be the burden back on him, how long, he won't know what to do. He won't know,
That's
I mean,
what I'm trying to tell you. It needs to have some
Okay.
design to it. Words, letters are not a design, in my opinion.
you want something besides the letters.
Some design to it that is compatible with the building, his own building. I know we were seeing these in two applications, but they're really two buildings. So they're two signs, and they don't have to be internally compatible, the two signs, but the one sign for the bikes needs to go with the bike building and be appropriate in terms of size and all that other stuff, subject to the maximums, and then have some design to it, a design feature, whether that design is a border, whether it's a design element, whether it's an image, whether it's a bike, an old-timey bike. or
Can he
a
hang a
new-timey
bike from the building?
No, no. He cannot. I don't think the city allows protruding signs, but
Oh, we have hanging signs. We do have that.
I don't think you can have a 3D sign, but that's not my call.
Yeah,
That's
if it were flat against the building, it's third dimensional criteria to a protruding sign. So there are some ways that they
There's
may
some
be
way.
able to look at it.
But you'll still be limited, no matter what, he's limited in size. That's the
Correct.
regular city code, nothing to do with the,
Right. Well, and a
preservation code.
bicycle, I don't know whether or not that would constitute a sign since it's actually a bicycle. So unless it was advertising the business of bicycles, would we call it a sign? I'm not sure. So, that may be along the same line as murals, handled as public art. It would be, handle it on a case-by-case basis. We'd have to see it.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to remind the board that what you're doing tonight is deciding if what the applicant presented has actually met the criteria of your guidelines. So it's not to try to figure out exactly what else, but it's this, if this application meets the criteria. If you feel like on one point it does not, then the proper vote would be to deny. If you feel like it does meet it, then the proper vote would be to affirm. So that's just a reminder of,
Would it be possible to, since it sounds like there's general agreement on one of the signs, to vote on that one and let her come back on the other one with
no,
notice provided, or
no, because it's one application.
one application? Trying to do something, get your part of it done, but if,
So I'm supposed to go back and tell him that we need to come up with something more picture, something that has something other than the words? I
Hey,
mean,
Sherry, can I interrupt you just for 1 second?
yes.
One, may we see the pictures that you found for bikes? And two, for the cultural center, we were able to approve portions of the work. Hold on just a minute, Sherry. I'll take it all up. Okay. 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 Thank you. We were able to approve. We were able to approve portions of the work, but deny specifically the windows. So I'm wondering if,
What can we clarify what exactly about the application does not meet our guidelines?
I've said it several times, I don't know how
I
many
just
more
want to
times I can-
clarify it.
There's no design to it. I don't believe it's compatible with the architecture of the building. That's clearly in the design guidelines. It's obviously a replica. It can be a replica of a historic signage because we don't know what signage was there, and they didn't have any sign to begin with. It's a brand new sign on this building for the first time. So that's it. The location is correct according to the guidelines on the flat, unadored part of the building. Or on and on. I mean, the location is not the issue. It's, in my opinion, it's the lack of any design element to design.
so the,
It's incompatible with the building.
I will say that the reason I recommended approval on it was because design is not a criteria that I can locate.
I don't think it's compatible.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm just one vote. I
Well, but tonight it's pivotal, right? So,
understand that. I mean, perhaps the sign folks could give you some ideas. I mean, you know, they do signs all the time. I'm not a sign designer. So we need to know if you want to proceed or you want to request the continue, since we've now.
I just,
heard from our attorney.
would like to speak one more time to tell you guys that when I first started working with signage, one of the things, and including this applicant, is, we'll look over at this sign. It's written on the building and it's huge. There are so many things out there that don't even follow the criteria. And now that we're getting our people and our merchants to actually obey the rules and try to do the right thing, then they're pointing out to me, they can take me right down the street and show me things that don't apply. And I say, well, they're too old, and now I'm going to go back and just say it's because you don't like the design. So it's going to be this will make a lot of our people, it's been very hard for me to get people to even take advantage of the CRA grant and come forward. So they just let their buildings look yucky. And I'm just mentioning is that when you finally get them to perk up and decide they're going to try, and they followed the criteria, because we were sure we did that, this will be difficult. At least when I was working on the glass windows downtown, whoever was on the board at that time, and maybe David was there, but they actually opened a book and said, we want something to look like these panels. Can you do that with metal? I got it. I mean, if I know what I'm going to go back to do, but this is very subjective. I mean, it's got to look with a design. I just hope I can pick one that works next time. It's very hard when we've met the criteria, but we just don't like the picture. It discourages our merchants from coming.
I understand your concern. I've said what my position is. I'm only one.
I know
vote.
you don't like it. I know. I understand.
It's not that I don't like it. That's not my decision. My decision is it's not compatible with the building. There's no design to it that contributes to the.
He wanted it to be simple, very simple for the bike.
explain my position. If you don't want to hear it, that's fine.
I'm sorry, I
I'm
didn't
just
mean to
trying-
interrupt, I'm sorry.
Asking me what my position
Okay.
is. And I happen to be aware of lots of property owners downtown who do make good improvements to their property, and I'm supportive of that. My husband owns quite a few buildings downtown.
I'm aware of
He is
that.
always doing improvements to his building. Everybody wants downtown to succeed and continue to succeed. Decisions that were made in the past before the Preservation Board have absolutely no bearing on this board. So if there's bad things that were done before there was an ordinance, you know, they have to just stay like that until someone decides to make a change. But the parts that downtown, the signs that are there that are positive, you know, take a look around at some of them and you know, see what you can do that would have
I'll
some.
try my best.
Chair, if I may interrupt real quick. So it looks like by the reading of the application, they are listed as two separate of the signs. So it looks like you may be able to condition a motion that would allow one and disallow the other.
The application as amended lists each sign separately, and for that reason, I believe that we should be able to approve one sign and deny the second sign, if that's the desire of the board.
And again, if the applicant wishes to have that vote tonight, or again, you can continue the whole thing, or
If the bike building sign doesn't have the support, I don't believe it has 3 votes.
right.
Can she request a continuance for just that part and come back?
I don't think I could. I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
So either.
It's one
either-
application, but you can condition the motion because it's two separate items tonight. I do not believe you either have to continue the entire application or not.
And then but if she's denied, isn't there a time period that she can't come back? Or how does that? I don't want to get it denied. If she wants a decision tonight on the other one, I don't want to put her in a position.
That is totally your decision. Sure.
So may I ask a question? So a motion cannot be entertained to approve Neptune Lounge sign as presented and to continue that the applicant would bring back. It's not a denial, but we ask the applicant to bring back and,
It would be a denial.
okay.
That-
Then
that's
no,
what it would
okay.
be approval for one.
Then you would have to go
disallowal.
before the Board of Commissions for an appeal. We did that.
Or can she come back with a different design and a different
Time
application?
for the other one. And then if she comes back on a continuance, there's no additional application.
So she can either
fee or-
continue the entire application,
Right?
Right.
or, as it looks like it may be, a motion can be crafted to allow one and disallow the other, but the other one would not get approved.
And then it would have to go to an appeal. So if we approve one part of the application, the other part's denied, and you would go straight to an appeal to the commission, which you could do. Or you could wait on the whole thing and try your luck coming back to see if you can design something that hopefully meets our.
Would you mind going back to the dais so we can just capture, if you are saying that we want to get your decision on the record?
The way I understand it, that if you vote on the Neptune Lounge and then you do not vote a yes for the other one, he won't be able to do that, and I'd have to then go for, before the commission? I don't see him doing well with that. He will be very hurt. It would be better if I just tell him I need to tweak the one, and I'll try to come up with something, and then I'll drive Michelle crazy on letting her tell me that maybe this looks better, because we tried really hard with, I like the bike. It looks that's what it's very simple, it's dark color, it looks good with this building, for me. So I would rather withdraw the whole thing. Do I have to redo it?
So you would like to continue to
Is
next?
it, but I don't have to redo my application, I just withdraw it, continue it.
You would continue request to continue the application to our next regular meeting, and then you would revise, if you wish, it's up to you. You have the opportunity to either come back to a full board, which we might have the next time, and/or revise the application. It's entirely your.
Well, I have to bring it back when I have maybe a larger group.
Right.
And then if that doesn't work, then I'll take it before the commission, because there's no reason that he can't have a sign. I just got to make it work.
No one's saying that he can't have a sign. Don't
I know.
misunderstand you're trying to put words in my mouth. I'm not saying that he can't have a sign.
No,
happy
what
for
he
him to have a
chose. I mean, I just have to come up with something different than what he chose.
Well, you have to come up with something different, in my opinion, that would be compatible with the architecture of the building.
Okay, and you can't give me any more hints.
I've said a design element. I've suggested
Okay.
some kind of, you could do a sign with some kind of a border. You could add this image of a bike to it if he wants to do. I mean, I think you have a real design in the Neptune Lounge. It's a design sign. You have words in an interesting font. You have an image of a trident that relates to Neptune. I mean, you've got that whole theme going there. Whereas,
Yeah, there was a reason for that. I mean, that went with the lounge.
so think of that and the theme that you want for the bike store and translate that into sign that.
Okay.
My opinion.
I will work on that.
There may be full board and,
But I don't have to rewrite anything. I just need to come back at the next meeting with do I need to turn in my possible,
you need to if you're going to revise it, talk to Michelle about when she needs it so she can get it to us in our packet.
right, just get the material to her in advance and then come back. Does it go on next month?
Right. The next month's meeting is June 5th, but I also had a question about that on our, oh, shoot, I'm looking at 2017. So our next meeting would be June 4th?
June 4th.
Is that correct? Okay. I'm sorry, I was looking at the 2017 agenda. So our next meeting will be June 4th, so if you want to
Okay.
continue it to June 4th,
Okay,
and then ask Michelle when you need to get if you're going to submit anything new, be sure and get that to her within time so she can revise the staff report and get it to us so we have it before the meeting.
okay.
Right.
Yes.
So that's your wish to continue that?
That is my wish.
Okay.
I just wish I didn't have to tell him when we leave here. Thank you so much. I will.
Mr. Perez, do we need a motion to continue that?
No, because that's the applicant's right
Or-
to continue,
okay.
so.
All right, so that item has been continued to June 4th. I don't know why I had the wrong date. Same time, 6:30, ma'am. Thank you. We have no more cases, but we do have a couple of staff items. Ms. Wagner?
So the property transaction notice that we discussed during the last meeting, I just wanted to let everyone know that I'll be meeting with representatives of Pinellas County and with City of St. Petersburg on June 19th during their scheduled Board of County Commission meeting. So we'll discuss those ideas about going to the property appraiser further at that time. And
Before you leave that item, I thought about this a bit, and maybe y'all might have comments too, so I don't think you're here to get a chance to talk about it. It's the way that I think you could get it into get picked up in a title report, that the city would have a one-time action, and then it would just be the title company. And that way would be to record the ordinance with the list of all parcel numbers and legal descriptions to which the ordinance apply. And then that ordinance every time, and I'm mindful that pulling together the legal descriptions and the parcel numbers, it's going to take some time. I understand that. But the beauty of it is that then once that ordinance is recorded in the public records, every title company that hits against that parcel number or that legal description, it should pop up. I have a fairly good understanding of title work, but you're more in the
should
business
pull
than
up
but
that,
it
yeah, it should.
Then I guess the onus is off the back of the city and it's onto the title company. So, not that title companies they make
Right.
mistakes too, but at least we as a city have done our best, and whatever else you might work out with the property appraiser, that's all good too. But I don't know, what do you guys think?
I don't do title work, but it should, if it's recorded, show up when they hit that property description. So,
definitely, go ahead, I'm sorry.
My only thought was the earlier a potential buyer knows that information, the better. Because if it would affect their decision to buy the property, in other words, if they don't intend to comply or whatever, that's when they need to know it. So, I
Sometimes
don't.
they have the title work a long time before they
And
close.
sometimes it's
they
the
don't.
day of the closing. That's
But,
right.
Hopefully-
But that's better than
That's better than
not
nothing.
knowing at all.
We also would
Absolutely.
hope that buyers would come to the city and
do their
find
due
out more-
diligence.
Do their due diligence
Right.
about zoning and
Yeah.
preservation and all that, but, we can't force that either, but at
Right.
least, I don't know, that was just
Yeah, I don't have a solution that backs it up earlier, but
And you might even, I bet, perhaps Mr. Perez can give us some suggestions, or your law firm, about how to be sure, maybe a title company would prepare that list, parcel number, legal descriptions, to be all inclusive. I don't know, I think that can be done too. So it like I said, then we've made our absolute best effort to let people be aware. And the title company hits it, great. If they don't pick up that ordinance, then, still done really strong effort.
Yep. So I'll take that into consideration. Anything else on that item before I go forward? Okay. So the Florida Department of State Small Matching Grant was applied for the Design Review Guidelines Manual Update. The application number is 20.H.SM.100.002, submitted on May 1st, 2018.
I have before, if we do get the grant, I guess, I had a couple of things that maybe we don't need to talk about until if we get the grant. I mean, how much did you ask for?
40,000.
40.
And that was based on previous successful applications that I was given to use as examples.
So if we got the grant, we had the 40,000 plus the 20,000 the city budgeted,
Correct.
so it'd be 60,000.
Correct.
That would be a significant amount of money to get a lot of work done.
Right.
Just a couple of ideas, and we can talk about them again when we get further along. I think it would be helpful to have an HPB member on the selection committee, and hopefully you as well, the two, the staff and the board that use this, document the most, going to be the best position to be able to evaluate, those applicants.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so we can talk about it in more detail, but I think the strongest or the most amount of points, however you decide to do it, there's two things that are going to make this a success or not. One is the qualification of the staff. They are assigning, whoever the consultant is assigning the people who are specifically qualified to do this kind of work. They may have them on their, in their employ, but are they really assigning historic architects, historic archaeologists, historians? Are they assigning those people? And then how many times, how many different guidelines has this consultant done? And there are consultants out there that specialize in preservation, but some specialize in different aspects. So we want to get the ones that routinely do prepare design guidelines and are current on all federal laws and all that other good stuff. So I just want us to emphasize those in the
Selection process.
selection process. And then the only other thing that I think, when with that kind of a budget, I think there would be the ability to do this is, there's really three groups that are going to use this design guidelines. One is staff, obviously. One is this board, as we make our decisions every month. And then the third is people who live in the district. And so far, I've only talked about two of them. We haven't talked about people who live in the district and own property in the district. And I think we need to have significant, meaningful outreach, public outreach to the people who live in the district, to talk to them at the beginning of the process. What would you like included in the guide? What's not clear? What do you not understand? And we all have opinions about that on the board,
right.
and the staff does too. But let's ask the people out there who read it and go, I don't know, what am I supposed to do in this case? And then let's go back to them and say, with the draft, it says, here's what we think we heard. Here's what staff and the board are looking for. Now let's get some more public input. Because the only way it's going to be successful is if it's really clear. I mean, tonight was a good example. There's not a lot of good guidelines on signage, and there's a lot of more specifics that need to be in there about signage. Give, the applicant tonight and other folks, correct. Those are just kind of a couple of quick thoughts on that. And could you remind me when the review of the grant will be made?
So I don't have those dates in front of me now unless it's in my memo. Hold on just a second. Okay, so the applications were due June 1st. The grant period is from July 2019 to June 2020. And I did not put in here, but So those applications go through an internal review process for administrative completeness, and then they go to, they actually, I don't know that they go to legislation or if they actually just get recommended for approval for funding and then they
Go
go
to
down
the
the.
grant? Rank?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to think of.
I knew somebody ranked them. I couldn't.
Yes,
Okay.
they get ranked, and then the funding amount just goes by the ranking, and tie rankings are determined by who turned it in first.
Anything else?
That's all I have for that.
I thought when we met last time at our April meeting, you had given us all this information about the mailer, and I thought you were going to mail one out. Did you not mail it? Because I live in the district and didn't get one. And
It has not been mailed out yet.
okay, I was feeling better that it didn't get lost in the mail.
No.
Okay. So what is the status on that, please?
So that I am still trying to generate an appropriate address list for the mailers. It's not a straightforward process, but they are coming. So I still anticipate being able to send them out in May, unless something happens that I don't expect.
And then can we talk about, can you give us an idea at our next meeting? We sent it out in May. Are you thinking of doing one when next? And what would that theme be? You know, would it be the fall cleanup? Remember, you're doing, I don't know. And I'm just,
So one of the things we talked about was documenting the feedback this time, since we had some sort of strong feedback on the 2-page letter from the first time or the most recent time that this went on. So we'll be documenting that feedback and sort of deciding what to do from there. A new development has taken place. There's consideration of a info mailer going out with water bills. If that happens, it would go out in July. If it does go out in July, I'm trying to get our Historic Preservation Board information on it. I've done a draft. I'm not sure. I won't know how they determine who gets on it, whether or not it's going to go. I don't have any of that information.
that information mailer would have other city information on it, and yours would be like one paragraph.
Correct. It's a newsletter format with 3 columns, and we would just have a little blurb.
That would be in lieu of,
Well, not necessarily. That's just another outreach effort, and we would start, documenting what the reception is and how is this working to get the word out, who's seeing it, and how effective is each measure, and which one should we pursue.
But that would go to everybody, not just people in the historic
Right.
district.
Right.
I don't know if that would add confusion or, yeah.
Well, the drafting for the water bill mailer would sort of say, hey, we have a historic preservation district, not necessarily
you're in it.
right.
Okay.
Not details about where it is and whether or not you're in it. It would sort of introduce the general city to the idea that we have this board and that we have a district, and that we pursue historic preservation in the city of Tarpon Springs, because, who knows, we all think that it's a given, but maybe not everyone does.
Maybe it would just say, we have a historic district, it's basically downtown plus the residential area to the, you could kind of generally describe it without having a map, or how would you tell people?
I would guide people to the website without necessarily, because I don't want to generate more confusion. I want people to know that it exists. And for people who are interested in historic preservation, I would like for it to sort of come across as an invitation to join us at the board, and to, if they're truly interested in it and they qualify, maybe to apply to volunteer for the board. But I'd really just like it to be an introduction and an invitation, not necessarily specific information.
It could more be like, we have a historic district, and the value or the integrity of that district is maintained through property owners to maintain the property, and we have a board that reviews something like that.
Sure.
Kind of and the purpose is to maintain our town's history. It'll be a kind of positive.
Right.
It's a good thing for our community because.
Definitely.
Okay. So I guess then in June, you can decision.
I will try.
Whether it's in the utility bill mail out or the postcard.
Right. Well, the first mailing of the postcard will happen for sure.
Oh, you're doing
So
that
that we-
anyway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So this is just, you know, I would like to sort of expand our outreach efforts in every direction and see what the most effective is.
Thank you for that update. Come before the board? Anything else? All right. I'll adjourn the meeting at 7:24. I can't sign, so would you mind signing the minutes for me? Oh, I fell and
Oh, God.
on a sidewalk and
You have a pen I can
Broke,
borrow from you? I ran in here and I